Greetings and salutations to our fine podcast audience. Welcome to 3 Peas in a Pod, episode 277.
We made it.
Yes, we did. So I have a question, gentlemen.
All right.
Are we having fun yet?
Not yet. We just started.
But that's the topic we're going to talk about.
Well, you know, one of the downsides for me and my personality is that I have long been accused of having too much fun.
Really?
Too much fun. We're a fun guy.
Well, there's an old country song that says, I ain't never had too much fun.
Yeah, you know, I am one of the few people that has been kicked out of intensive care units for laughing.
People are dying. Ed's cracking up.
I remember very well being with one lady that I knew very well. She only had a few hours to live, and she and I were laughing, and the nurse asked me to leave.
Oh, what a shame. I remember once, I think it was when my grandfather passed away, we were in the funeral home, and my cousin came in the restroom with my wife and was like, I am so depressed. Do something to make me laugh. And my wife pulled out this great talent that she has. I won't say what it is. She can make a certain noise that just makes everybody crack up. And she did it. And they're cackling, laughing in the bathroom. Everybody wanted to know what in the world was going on in there. We were having a good time at Granddad's funeral.
Being able to laugh, really at any moment, is a gift.
It is.
But
laughter is a good medicine. I think there's a wise book that says that.
That is good. That is good. But I just think in general, like it is a big gift that when you go a period of time where you realize I haven't really laughed. A really good laugh in a while, you notice it. You feel it.
Sure.
Yeah. There are seasons of life where you just don't laugh a lot because things are really hard. And then, like you said, someone shows up and something happens and it makes you deep belly laugh.
The other side of that, I would say, is I'm also a fairly easy crier.
Sure.
In that, you know, there are movies that make me cry. There are situations I'll see that those two ends of the spectrum they've always been with me. And I think they're both fairly important.
Yeah. So I bring up that topic because Nathan brought a question to us today.
I did. When y'all don't send questions, y'all got to deal with Nathan's questions.
So this is Nathan's question today in episode 277.
Yeah. So the question basically goes along the lines of, do Christians have to be super serious all the time? Because we're dealing with important things. We are believers who are interacting with the most important being of all time, right? The Godhead,
yes,
right? But also dealing with important matters in the lives of other people. I believe part of being a believer is I'm supposed to be invested in the lives of people, one, who don't know Jesus, but also among believers, they go through difficult things, and my job is to come in and love my neighbor and help them through difficult things. So does that mean if I'm having fun or I'm involved in frivolous things, am I somehow derelict in my duty as a Christian?
So, you know how my mind works. I got hung up on a word you said. It would be really important then to define frivolous.
Okay.
Is having fun frivolous? Is that a problem? And are there times when to be fully human means that I should have a good time? Is that what we're getting at? Because if we believe Jesus is the human, he is the God man. He did that. Do you think Jesus never in all his time on the planet laughed? Because if he's our example, then you have a Savior who is a very somber. He never, ever, ever laughs, even at the stupidity of the disciples.
Sure. Sure. Well, and then I've heard it posed, and I've seen people online pose these questions along the lines of, if you believe that there are real people going to hell, right? They're going to spend eternity apart from God. How are you not spending every waking moment? I even heard someone say, I don't know how you could sleep. I don't know how you could do X, Y, and Z. Like, you'd have to sleep the minimum amount to be alive so you could keep going out and to tell them, this is so serious. It's so important. And, I hear people say that, and I go, okay, there are parts of what you're saying I believe to be true, but the question that keeps, and so they would say, so how are you doing things like going to the movies? How are you doing things like, why are you going on vacation? Why aren't you going on mission trips all the time? Why are you going on vacation when you should be using that money to go do this? And you should be all these different kinds of things. So I hear all those things and I go, I think there are a lot of people who, and maybe were even taught when they were kids, if you're having too much fun, you're probably sinning.
Probably.
You're probably doing something wrong if you're having too much fun. And I think that's all kind of rooted in this same idea of a little bit of what Ed said. We have this idea of God being super self-serious and the work of God is being super self-serious. And so things like we were talking before we filmed about watching a ball game. Well, what eternal importance does that have? And going to the movies, what does that have? Going, all that different kind of stuff. So that's the kind of lead in. So what would we say? What is the importance? If Ed asks, is it frivolous to have fun? What would be the importance of having fun? What benefit does that do to?
Well, and I told you when you were telling me we were going to talk about this that I would have to bring up, and this is not an exact quote, but you can find it if you want to Google it. Dallas Willard said that it is incumbent on every Christian to live a life that is joyful and satisfying enough that sin does not look attractive to you.
Right.
Now that, for me, would involve being with people that I love and enjoying a good laugh. And for me, it probably involves some form of competition.
Yeah.
And enjoying that, whether I win or lose. Mostly I would like to win. Yes. But those kind of things are fun, relaxing, joyful for me. And they don't make things that other people that are doing that also lead to sin attractive to me. I know that I can enjoy my life without those things. So I think what's the importance of having fun in life? That's a part of it.
I think it also comes down to, well, who do you think God is?
Yeah.
And if God is only concerned with lost souls getting saved out of, hell, if that's it, then I can see that.
Yeah.
But I think God is also about offering us life that is truly life.
Right.
To riff off of what Jesus was saying, I will give you life and more abundantly flowing out of you. Well, what's the attractiveness of that if it does not produce anything good or enjoyable or satisfying within me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That would, and I think for a lot of folks, that also clouds our view of what will eternity in the kingdom of God look like. And, people have gotten those images of, some ethereal kind of floating around up in clouds and stuff and singing and all that stuff. And they just go, well, that's not appealing at all.
Not attractive.
And I don't think it's appealing to much of anybody, to be quite honest. Because that's, where'd that come from? But the more appealing thing is, what about this life brings joy?
Right.
We know that in the kingdom that will be perfected and in all ways removed of all of the sin and the things that have tainted it and keeping it from being all that it should be. And so we will enjoy God and that life forever, which I think probably means we will be producing things and working and discovering and learning and laughing and all the things.
Yeah.
And so part of what we're called to do as Christians is to bring the kingdom here and now.
Yeah.
And what does that look like now? So we bring that into the world as salt and light so that the people of the world look at that and go, yes, that's attractive. That's something I want. You find that in the kingdom of God, his way. So,
well, and I think if all good orthodoxy grows out of my understanding of who God is, like you just talked about, who God is, and all good orthopraxy, which is how I live out my orthodoxy, flows out of that. Well, we know that John, who knew Jesus, says that God is love. And we know that the Spirit of God is producing in us the fruit of the Spirit, which is love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and gentleness, self-control. Well, none of those say, and the Spirit also will produce a spirit of seriousness where you don't ever have any fun.
Right.
So if God is a God who is love, and the fruit of love is joy, then his people ought to be joyous like God is joyous.
Yeah.
And there is an attractiveness of a spirit that even in the midst of tough situations does not feel as if everything depends on the person.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. I'm in a terrible, terrible situation. And generally, seriousness, even about the thought of there are people in my life who are going to hell. And so I must sleep minimally and do everything I can. Well, the truth is there is almost nothing I can personally do.
Right.
And everything that needs to be done has been done.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the seriousness I have about it is living the kind of a life around that person that is loving, joyful, peaceful, patient, kind, and open to helping them with whatever I can help them with that's within my power, that would then be attractive to them to want what God is producing in me. Not in some kind of over the top, I must get you to pray a prayer so that I will leave you alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think to the point that you're making there, I think the answer I naturally come to when I'm sitting watching on my phone and going, wow, this is what I would say back to that person, is I think I would start with what we've already kind of said, but I would just say that, what salvation is not primarily what I don't go to, which is hell. Salvation is not just salvation from hell. It is salvation. I'm being saved to Jesus. Jesus is who I am. The whole point is that I am being made right with God. And so that I get life with God.
And I'm going to let you, I just want to say this before I forget to say it as an old guy. What you said about salvation is to Jesus. That's directly from Jesus in John 17, where he says, this is salvation, that to know the Father and the Son.
Yes. And it is being, I'm being delivered from this. That is true. But I'm being brought to, the deliverance in the Bible is not just what I'm being taken from, it's what I'm being taken to. I'm being taken to Jesus. And so it is about, in this life, I am to live with Jesus both now and forever. And so, as we've already said, I can't be the one to even to save anybody. The Spirit is the one that convicts people. The Spirit is the one that is drawing people. The best I can do is be as close in relationship to the Father as I can, that when I see the Father drawing someone, I might say to that person, I think God's drawing you, dude. And I think you should listen to what God's saying to you right now. I can come alongside and help the Father, but I can't. There's not any activity I need to produce to make that happen. So living a life without sleep or, without any kind of pleasure or fun in my life wouldn't even produce the goal that someone would say for me to do. But I think it actively hinders my ability to live life with God, because what joy and fun, rest and relaxation, it's why God gave the Sabbath to the people of Israel. What it naturally does is it makes me a less self-serious person, because seriousness by itself is me turning in on myself and making myself the most important person in the world. In the previous example I gave is, I'm the person who has to save all these people. That's why I can't save.
That's right.
I'm the one who's. But also, as we've already said, when I'm going through really tough times, I turn completely in on myself. And I start to think, my life is really hard. Things are really hard. These things I'm dealing with are really hard. And then things happen. And this is the benefit my wife and I do for each other all the time. In the hardest times of parenting our daughters, we've gone through the most time, one of us will be able to crack a joke with the other one. As you were talking about with your wife, you crack a joke. And what it does is it reminds you, yes, this is really difficult, but this is not the entirety of my life. Mm-hmm. There are ways in which even the deepest grief and the deepest tragedy, it begins to make you feel like this is what my whole life is. My whole life is this thing. Mm-hmm. And joy and laughter, taking a break from it, Sabbathing, they often tell you when you're caregiving for another person, you need to regularly remove yourself from that situation and go do something you enjoy. Because what it reminds you is, I'm not the sole person who has to hold up the world. Mm-hmm. I'm not the sole one who has to do this. One, it helps me to do that, to enjoy that. But to care for the other person. But what it does in the terms of my relationship with God is, you cannot have a relationship with God that is based on your pride. It has to be devoid of your pride. It has to be truly humble. God lifts up the humble. He opposes the proud. Self-seriousness by its nature is pride. It is me saying, if I can't laugh at myself, if I can't ever take a break from important things and say, God's going to have to handle the results of that, I am putting myself in a place where I'm not supposed to be. I am saying, I am God. God can't handle this. Only I can handle it. And so laughter, rest, relaxation, a good nap every so often become a really important part. And one of the reasons I brought this up is I've realized in my own spiritual life, I have made fun a separate thing to my spiritual life. Mm-hmm. I've even said things to myself like, okay, I'm going to have to do a really hard season of ministry right now. So I need to go have some fun, as if fun was not part of my life with God. Whereas in the ancient Hebrew, when you look at the calendar that God set up for them, 1/3 of their time that he had appointed for them, this is when you'll remember this is when you do it, 1/3 were celebrations.
That's right.
If you include the Sabbath, which had a celebratory meal, and all the festivals and feasts, there was food and eating, singing and dancing and laughter that was a part of that. Jesus, his spirituality was so strong that people thought he was a drunkard at parties. Yep. People looked at him and gone, that dude's a drunkard. Look at, and which they don't tell us why they thought that. I think we'd have to assume not because he was a drunkard. Wow. We'd have to assume because the Bible's told us drunkenness of that nature would be a sin, and Jesus didn't sin. So it must be something about.
Well, it's probably because the people of his day had this same thought of, if I'm around people who are drunk, I also probably am.
Yes. Well, and
that kind of lifestyle doesn't,
or that I should be above them.
Yeah, that's right.
I should be at the parties making clear I'm not drunk. Yeah. Look at me and sitting here and I'm not cooperating with this. But Jesus probably had a personality where people would look and they'd go, he had a lightness and a laughter about him that was not common among the religious people of his day. And so I often think, is the way I express my joy in the Spirit in my life in such a way that people would look and be like, what's going on with that guy? What is, not just, wow, man, look at how much he prays. Look at how deep his insights into God is. But they go, look how light that guy is. Look how enjoyable he is to be around. Look at how he gives life to people, and I think about this, Jesus with children. Children are drawn to people who do not take themselves seriously, people who will get down on their level, get in their face, laugh with them, play silly games with them, and a lot of us can do that with our children. We can do that with our grandchildren, and often our children and grandchildren draw that play out of us. But it's difficult to do it in any other part of our life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I want to say before we finish talking about this, that in addition to, I think it's okay to have fun, I think there is a careful distinction that I have watched in my time of being a follower of Jesus, that there's a line to walk between looking at what people who aren't Christians do and they think is very fun.
Yeah.
and then saying, well, there's no law that prohibits me from doing that.
Yes.
So I will do that in the name of fun. And there is some danger in those kind of things. I've watched it go from when I was a kid and first became a Christian. There isn't a law against alcohol in the Bible. In fact, it's the opposite of that. But there are lots of warnings about it.
Yes.
And I've watched a whole generation of peers of mine and younger go to that it's almost spiritual if I, with my friends, get to the point of drunkenness.
Right.
And that's a different kind of, that's not really what this question is. I got to be serious about heaven and hell all the time. I just want that to be the other side of it. And I watched whole generations of pastors who, we went from, smoking's a sin to, but if I have a cigar with a beer or bourbon, well, that's okay.
Right.
And I'm not saying any of that's a sin. I'm just saying there is a way that instead of determining, is there a way that I can have fun? And I don't mean we're becoming Amish and we have we call fun something nobody else would think is fun. I don't mean that. I just mean we take what everybody says is fun, and I because Jesus doesn't specifically outlaw it.
Yeah.
I will smoke marijuana and I'll do whatever in specifically, I'll do that. I just want to say there's a fine line to walk in there. And I thought as the old guy, I should throw that in.
Well, I think on top of that, the one thing I would throw in, because I had this thought earlier when we were talking, and then it fell out of my head. But, there's this phrase that, and I'm not saying that the heart behind this phrase is wrong, but there's this idea, I think, and this is a pastor I respect, so this is not me bashing another thing. I think it's Craig Rochelle who says it, but there's this phrase of if you sin and it isn't fun, you're doing it wrong. This idea of of course sin is fun. Following Jesus is hard and it's not fun. There's this idea. And what I would get to is, and I've thought about this regularly and I remember the person who brought this to my attention was a different pastor, John Ortberg, who said, he quoted that phrase and he said, when you were around Dallas Willard, he's talking about Dallas, he would say, sin was not fun. I guess Dallas didn't know how to sin correctly. Mm-hmm. And his point was, you suddenly realize there is no actual fun to sin. And I thought about that. I go, honestly, even the sins I'm most tempted by, I'm not tempted because they're fun. Like, I lose my temper on people. Yeah. I get snappy and short with people, never because it's fun. Yeah. Never because I'm like, it'd be really fun right now is to say something I wish I could take back later. I'm doing it because I think it will relieve some other negative thing I don't want to feel. And so I'm going to lose it on this person. Even things like lust and pornography, that was a struggle for me for so long. It wasn't even fun. There was this almost neediness that was within me that brought, and so the only reason I bring that out is I do think often, even as Christians, we go, if I'm going to follow Jesus, I got to give up all the fun stuff of the world. And part of us growing is the thing Dallas said of, I create a life that I realized that wasn't fun.
Yeah.
It did seem like it was the closest thing to fun I could get to. But there is a kind of fun and a kind of play that it comes from joy and not from this, I'm medicating these other things. Most of our sins are us medicating.
It is.
That's eventually what I had to learn about my lust, and that is I have a deep fear of rejection that when I imagine situations in my head with that are sexual, man, I don't feel that deep. So I'm medicating, not because it's fun, because I need to not feel rejected.
Right.
But there is a kind of fun with people who I know love me and care about me, and I can actually become silly. That is why it works with my kids to play, because I know they love me and they're for me, and I can be silly and I can laugh at myself and I can do things that I wouldn't do in other places. That's actual play because it's coming from joy.
Well, and the thing that I was talking about, I do think there's been a fear in my lifetime from Christians of, I don't want people who don't follow Jesus to think I'm not cool. I'm not like them.
Mhm.
Instead of, there is supposedly supposed to be some distinctiveness about us that's
Yes.
more than what we hold in our head.
Mhm.
Yes.
It's about the way that we live. So I didn't want to get all off into that kind of thing, but I do think,
I think
there's
it's important.
I think there's a line, and that's not necessarily a seriousness about it. And it's not legalistic.
Right.
It just is being aware that there are danger. All of those kind of things that other people do to have fun, there's a real danger behind almost all of it that the enemy is lurking behind, including I want to win everybody from Jesus,
Yes.
so I'll be serious all the time. There is a danger that the enemy lurks behind that, believe it or not, of I'm better than even other followers of Jesus because look how serious I am and I take this and it becomes about me. That line is really important to get clear in your mind of Jesus is the one that saves. Jesus produces love and joy and peace and patience and kindness in me as long as I allow myself to be drawn to him. And I don't have to try to do these other things that people who don't have the Spirit in them produce it. They're trying to get what Jesus gives to me for free from a bottle or a pill or a joint or a, something.
Yeah, that's the way that Paul talks about it is don't get drunk on wine, get drunk on the Spirit. And that's not a legalism thing. What he's saying is what you're trying to get from medicating with this other stuff.
Yeah. And currently, I think one of the big ones, and this is a whole other podcast, politics is one. It's a feeling of I'm better than those people because I have these right thoughts about the way things ought to happen in the world. And the truth is, most of us on a common level don't know enough about what's actually happening in the world to have most opinions about anything.
Yeah. Well, and I would argue for many people, it's our phones and it's this, I'm medicating. I don't ever want to have a moment. I'm getting dopamine hits that are super easy, which then cause other problems because now I'm reliant on that dopamine, which I will find from overeating or other, whatever the thing is that do become super negative things. And even if what I'm looking at on my phone is not sinful.
Yeah.
This, all of that. And so I think there is a becoming people as the quote you said from Dallas is the thing, becoming people who live such deeply rich lives with God and with others that I go, I don't have to ever medicate with sin. I'm living out of the fruit of the Spirit of joy and peace and kindness and goodness, not out of this neediness that we all have. That is incredibly important, and not just because it's attractive to other people, because once again, it's the Spirit that attracts people. It's not, as Ed already said, it's not my job to be a cool Christian to get people to want to be like me. It's my job is I want to live with the Spirit, and the Spirit will produce these things in me. That becomes really important. And so to answer the original question, I think we should maybe be having more fun. I think a lot of us should be looking out and going, play may be part of my spirituality.
Or I should be asking, is this thing I'm doing that I call fun producing joy in me?
Sure.
Which is a different thing.
That's right.
Joy is the ability that I have that no matter what situation I'm in, I have this buoyant ability that I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And laughter and having people around you that hold you close, including the Lord, certainly give you that sense of, I'm okay. Life is okay. This hard thing is hard, but I'm okay. And just fun for the name of fun, you can't play enough fun games with anybody to produce that. You can't drink enough to do that. You can't. They're just... And you can't be serious enough and win enough souls to produce that either.
So this weekend, we're having a little fun at our church.
We are. Fall Festival.
It's Fall Festival weekend.
Woohoo!
That may be why we talked about this.
That was part of the thought we had. Yeah. Get out there, have some fun, and enjoy it.
Throw a kid on an inflatable.
There you go.
Are we dunking people in water this year?
We got a dunk tank.
We got a dunk tank. I hear you're going to be on it, Jason.
You the first one that heard that.
I'm excited for this.
You are the first one that heard that.
You heard it here
I
first.
think you made that up.
And he heard it here first.
I think you just made that up. Because nobody heard that.
A lot of people just heard it.
Ain't nobody heard that. Nobody.
Jason on the duck tank.
That's not fun.
Come on out.
That produces no joy.
It's a softball that you get to throw it at the target.
I've been in the dunk tank before. If it's a nice temperature, it's not that bad. If it's cold, it's more fun for the people throwing.
Ain't no joy coming out of that.
The current day that we are on today would have been terrible to be in the dunk tank. It's cool out.
It was
today.
40 this morning when I woke
know.
up.
So
that's cold
anyway.
for Georgia.
Whew.
All right. Well, we'll be back next week. We'll have some fun this weekend.
Yes.
And hopefully be
Jason
back.
in a wetsuit.
Nope. That's less fun. That's less fun for the people seeing it. So don't picture that in your mind. Have a great week. See you later.